I think everyone wants to just slap AI onto anything that they put like a chat GPT wrapper around. I like to kind of buck the trend. So when everyone's going and flocking to AI this, AI that, let's throw the AI on it. I don't think, AI isn't actually always the best solution. So it actually can cause more problems than it fixes, right? I think that's one of the learnings we had here is instead of creating like an AI tool that builds emails for you, we already know what works really well. So we're just going to like constrain the parameters a lot more. So, it doesn't really use AI because we already have a pretty good idea about like what the email should look like for you.
You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. All right, we're back with Arthur from StayFi. Welcome back, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going, Will?
Oh, it's going good. It's been not too long. We had you on the pod a couple months ago. Now we're back. Lots to talk about, but give us a quick high-level overview. How's the, end or nearing the end of 2024 looking for you?
Yeah, 2024 was definitely a big year for StayFi. We've launched a ton of new products in the past year, grown a tremendous amount, and are just really excited to keep evolving this book direct space for short-term rentals and see kind of how guests continue to respond with, the concept of booking directly with trusted brands. And that's where we're really focused for the next year.
Well, let's talk about some of these new products. What's been the most exciting one that you guys have just recently announced or have announced throughout 2024?
Yeah, I'd say that the biggest gap that we saw with our customer base is the ability to send effective emails that actually convert into bookings. So that's what we were hearing from especially our smaller customers, people with less than 20 listings is, hey, I've collected hundreds or thousands of emails and phone numbers from all the guests that are staying with us. We're introducing our independent brand on our splash page when guests log into the Wi-Fi, but I don't know what to send. So we invested a lot this year in building out an improved email marketing tool where instead of kind of giving you a huge variety of options, because, the sky's really the limit when it comes to designing emails, we came up with a series of very prescribed templates of this is what you should send at certain times, and just fill it in with some basic details about, this particular focus that you want to have in the email, right? But basically, we've done 99% of the work for you in terms of the links, the properties. We can pull a ton from your PMS, all that stuff. So we call them kind of one-click campaigns. And we've seen a tremendous increase in the amount of emails our customers are sending because we've made it so much easier for them. So that's definitely the most exciting thing is just seeing more people be able to leverage the data that they're collecting and to actually result in terms of bookings for their business.
How did you guys find that out in the sense of what worked or didn't work for a one-click campaign and kind of, I don't know, I'm assuming tons of A/B testing, either with particular customers or what was the kind of method behind the madness there?
Yeah, we did a few things. Like one is we've done some surveying and user testing of our customers, especially those that said they love StayFi, but we actually didn't see them doing very much marketing. So kind of understand like what the gap is there in terms of like, why weren't they more actively marketing their properties or their business to their past guests? And then because we have, at this point, enough scale, we can actually look across emails that our customers are sending and see which types of emails are those that get the highest click-through rate and highest conversions. So we have such a large sample size of what people are sending now that we could look at, hey, what are the best practices that we see our customers using? And then how do we bring that knowledge to basically so that everyone can use it? So we have a bunch of one-click campaigns we launched, and then we're continuing to launch more and more. The one I'm most excited about that's coming up is like a last-minute availability campaign where we'll actually look at your software, see which properties have availability in any given window that you provide us, and then we'll actually create the email for you featuring those properties, the prices, and the dates that they're available. So kind of doing all that work for you so that you can actively market the nights that you actually want to get booked through this email.
All right, Slick Talkers, sorry to interrupt. As you know, great partners at Minute have sponsored this episode. They sponsor the show. So every episode is filled with amazing minutes. No pun intended. So if you don't know who Minute is or what they do, we see that we have a lot of new Slick Talkers out there in the world. So one, thank you for tuning into the show. Every listen, every time you hit play means so much to me and to my team. So thank you. But if you are new, Minute is an amazing noise detection device. Not only do they measure noise decibel levels inside of your vacation homes or your hotels, they actually can detect smoke. Not only that, if you're an outdoor kind of a unique stay person or just have an amazing outdoor amenities for your guests, from pools to hot tubs to cookout pads, all the stuff, they have an outdoor sensor that is specifically made for outdoor noise, because I didn't know this, but noise outside and noise inside actually makes a difference. So you don't have to worry about constantly making sure, are people partying at your place? Are the cleaners there? Or like whatever, kind of issue might happen, you can get that peace of mind with Minute at your side. So as you grow, Minute will grow with you. They have an amazing team of support, and they have an amazing technology from hardware and the software. When the two marry, it's just a beautiful combination. We use Minute in all of our vacation homes and hotels with our management company, and it's the best decision we've made because we are so dispersed and we are so spread out that having Minute just is a necessity for our operations. So get with Minute, go to the link in the show notes, let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you. They'll give you a sweet deal. And of course, you know the drill. We're back to the episode, and I hope you enjoy.
How much AI is involved with all this? Sounds pretty AI-ified.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone wants to just slap AI onto anything that they put like a ChatGPT wrapper around.
Yeah.
I like to kind of buck the trend. So when everyone's going and flocking to AI this, AI that, let's throw the AI on it. I don't think, that's like, AI isn't actually always the best solution. So it actually can cause more problems than it fixes, right? I think that's one of the learnings we had here is instead of creating like an AI tool that builds emails for you, we already know what works really well. So we're just going to like constrain the parameters a lot more. So, it doesn't really use AI because we already have a pretty good idea about like what the email should look like for you. Obviously AI can like fiddle with copy, but that's now like so kind of baseline that I wouldn't even like emphasize that per se, right?
Yeah.
Because it's really not that special anymore.
It's so first generation open AI, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. So I know, right, like I keep hearing this, and I'm sure you're hearing this in the industry too, right, Arthur, is that property management is hard, bookings are down, inventory is up, or supply is up, all these things. Obviously, everyone's wanting to optimize their current portfolio, but not a lot of operators, I think, really do. They're always kind of chasing the new listing. So when it comes to the marketing campaigns, and whether it's through one click or just being a StayFi customer in general, where can operators fully expect to own more share of wallet? What's things that they can do outside of like nightly rates? And I'm assuming upsells or extended stays through a one-click campaign are a starting point. But what other pieces can actually make this business more sustainable rather than just nightly rate commissions or owning the real estate?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting you bring that up because there were a lot of folks we talked to maybe 2 years ago that were, told us, hey, we don't need a tool like StayFi because we are 100% booked through OTAs. And some people got the idea of, building your own guest list and building your own loyal audience is about building resilience for your brand. Some people got that point and some people unfortunately didn't. So what we're seeing is for customers who invested in the good times into building a robust guest database, now you have this amazing audience to lean on to basically provide a whole new source of demand. So obviously you have demand from the OTA channels, but now you have this whole untapped group of people who you can market to separately to generate demand for your listings. So we definitely help people prepare for leaner times in their geographies by having that audience to tap into. So that's definitely number one, is like it's never too late to build an audience to make your business more resilient. So whatever's happening in OTAs doesn't impact you as much because you can always fill in those nights with people from your own past guests or your own other sources of data that we help you collect. And then definitely outside of that, obviously upsells are becoming an increasingly popular way to diversify your revenue outside of just book nights, especially since we see a lot of operators take that revenue and not share it with owners, right? So if they sell an early check and a late checkout, they're not giving owners some percentage of that, and they're only doing those fees on their nightly rates. And we definitely have a lot of products within StayFi to help advertise things like early check-in and late checkout because we have access to the whole guest database. So we have a lot of partnerships with companies like the Hostco, Minoan, Viator, basically any upsell tool. We see customers basically placing that in their Wi-Fi login flow and then in their automated emails and texts that go out once someone logs into the Wi-Fi. So if they have partners that they're selling tours and activities on behalf of and getting a commission, or doing things like late checkout or stay extension, we just provide now the ability to take those products and advertise them not just to the booker, but everybody staying in the vacation rental, and therefore increasing conversion rate. So that's definitely another great upside to our product, is we kind of extend the ability of all those other tools you're using to reach more folks that are staying with you.
No, that's super, super smart and super good. Man, there's a lot of places I could take it, but I actually kind of want to back up a little bit. You're talking about reliance on OTAs and how a lot of people obviously do know that they can build their own audience, but they're like, oh, I'm 100% booked through Airbnb and Vrbo. Why would I think about doing my own brand? Have you seen the recent policy update that Vrbo announced, I think October 4th, about communication and cancellations and all that good stuff?
But I'm assuming it's not in the favor of operators.
Yeah. We talked about it on Good Morning Hospitality, and Brandy Canale had a really good point on the sense of it just feels like they're getting closer and closer to telling you how to operate your business. And this recent policy change was more around you have to communicate within a certain time period based on a chain of events, and automated replies don't really count, especially when it comes to like an emergency message, right? Where the guest is like, hey, the basement's flooding. You can't just be like, all right, we'll respond in the next 3 hours once we figure out what to do. It's kind of interesting, but her point was around that. Where do you think the line will be drawn with OTAs and operators saying, you can't tell us how to or when to message guests or what information to share? Like, do you think there's going to be a line drawn between OTAs, like, and the operators kind of telling each other what they can and cannot, enforce?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the OTAs, behave like monopolists as they are, especially Airbnb is approaching it's interesting Vrbo's pushing these changes when it appears that their market share of overall bookings is in decline, which I think is kind of what we're seeing out there. So obviously when you have only one or two or maybe a third channel booking that is controlling the vast majority of demand, they can, pretty much get away with whatever they want. I see more risks with what I'm a lot of operators depend on sending like links through messaging and OTA channels. I think that's one area where they may cut down on what you're able to send because, they want more control over the booking process. They want all the communication to go through them, right? Which is why at StayFi, we want to build a product that's doesn't involve like anything to do with the OTA, right? Like it's all in the property, which you control and manage. And we're not, pushing anything through OTA communication because anything there could be at risk of being shut down overnight without your control. So for us, it's the faster you can diversify your demand, the better. I just got a note from a customer that said, hey, last year at this time, we were 90+% Airbnb, and now we're 25% direct, like 25% Vrbo and 50% Airbnb. And I think
Nice.
that's just in general, just really focus on diversification. Obviously, direct is great, but also just investing in those other channels so that you're not solely dependent on just one business that could change their rules, algorithm, fees overnight, in which you have no input or control.
Another conversation in our industry often is like what makes a professional, right? And you, I would say, get to see both sides. You get to see the traditional VRMA attendee, right, with 150 properties in Gatlinburg, Tennessee or whatever. But then you also get to see the new Airbnb host who maybe has 1 or 2 properties or maybe up to 10, doesn't use a property management software, maybe does dynamic pricing, has access control and a noise sensor. What are your overall opinions around the word and term professionalization when it comes to being a short-term rental host or operator? Again, it can be in any shape or form, but do you think there needs to be a clear line on this, like professional versus non-professional? Because I know plenty of hosts that I think could be professionals, but yet then I hear them talk about not wanting to invest in their own brand, not wanting to invest in Book Direct because, again, Airbnb provides so many tools for you to make it easy, and there's less money to spend on technology softwares and all these other middlemen joining the club. Yet you have the vacation rental manager who maybe is over inundated with technology and is just struggling to actually turn a profit. So what's your overall perspective on this professional, non-professional conversation we hear in our industry?
I mean, it's definitely a continuum. I don't think it's a binary choice. We have customers who do one short-term rental part-time as their vacation home and use a PMS designed for a quote-unquote host, although I don't love that word, like a Hospitable or a Lodgify, which is pretty lightweight and inexpensive. And those platforms have made it very easy to launch a website and accept direct bookings with all of the bells and whistles in terms of insurance, guest screening, payment processing, all built in. So it's like the barriers to entry to do direct bookings or to list on multiple channels continues to fall, which is why, at least Airbnb's advantage in terms of unique inventory is probably going to fall over time, especially like inventory that's single family homes. And that's kind of my general opinion. So, I think, but I think it's also totally fine for somebody who just rents, the shed in their backyard, not all year, to only be on Airbnb because they don't aspire to run this as a business, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. But we see a lot of people who start with that one property and then we kind of think of them as like the Airbnb entrepreneur. They expand, they maybe manage on behalf of others. And then there's kind of a natural set of tools that they adopt over time, typically first a PMS with a channel manager, then a pricing tool, and then some type of guest engagement solution, whether it's like StayFi or some other product, right? So that's kind of like generally where we see those folks headed. Yeah. I think vacation rental management companies, you're totally right. There's definitely going to be tech stack consolidation. Obviously, there's going to be, a fight to see which tools can roll up enough features so that they're indispensable and they're providing enough value that they're not the thing that the property manager is going to take out. And that's definitely something we have top of mind of how are we going to be one of those indispensable tools, not a nice bell and whistle that's, easy to turn off or take out because it's not providing enough value. So for us, again, another big theme for this coming year is how to articulate the value we're creating for operators and do some of that analytics on behalf of our customers so they can see right in the StayFi dashboard what type and how much business we're actually generating for them.
Yeah, any tech vendor that can showcase money earned with using without just spending every month on the unit count or whatever the pricing structure is always a great start.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about tech. I would love to know your opinion as a tech entrepreneur in our industry. I've had Andrew Kitchell sit down and we've talked about the tech landscape report that Wheelhouse put out, showcasing the different, I think, over 23 categories of different technology used within short-term rentals and a little bit of crossover with hotels. What's your overall opinion on the current state of our technology landscape? Do you think it's going to continue to grow? Do you think we're going to see, like you said, maybe some consolidation? Do you think we're going to see a slowdown in new innovation? Where do you think, or maybe is there a category specific to you outside of the StayFi category that you think is really gonna boom?
Yeah, I think the big question going forward is like which pieces of the tech stack naturally fit within the property management software and which do not. I think definitely like pricing is one there, I think it's going to become more, dynamic pricing is going to become more commodified in the sense that do you want the PMS solution or do you want a specialized tool? I think that's one area where we see potential threat is if we're offering like a CRM with marketing tools, that's definitely one that could be easily added within the property management software. Even things like door locks, right? We're seeing because of Seam and the ability to maybe write directly to some of the most popular tools also being added within the property management software. So I think for all of us kind of point solutions that are outside, that are not aspiring to be a PMS, it's kind of how do we differentiate ourselves to be good enough or kind of so much better than the PMS alternative that we can continue to thrive outside of the PMS and leverage our ability to work with all property management software, as opposed to obviously once you launch your own PMS, then you're kind of unable to do that. And I've seen that happen to some companies recently where they went from being a point solution to also PMS, and then of course they get cut off from all the PMS that they were integrated with, right? So I think that's going to be the tension is what's going to be consolidated in the PMS and which point solutions can thrive outside of that.
Well, don't you think, like I would look at a StayFi product and think if my PMS launched a marketing feature, I don't think I would trust it. Like why the product that's supposed to be syncing my reservations and my messaging should not be also doing my marketing for me. I don't know. It's too many features, right?
If we look at like SaaS tools for like restaurants or yoga studios or gyms, right? They typically have like this all-in-one approach with many different modules. And then they also have partners that offer those same modules. And it's always kind of like a pick your, the best set of tools for your business.
Yeah.
But I think we should all expect that the softwares are all going to launch many competitive products to their partners. And then it will, of course, be, survival of the fittest at that point to see if you're good enough to sustain a business outside of what the PMS has to offer within their own software.
Yeah, I think we saw that initially with AI chat, right? Every property management software now has an AI chat inbox. Yet there's Bestie out there, which I'm an advisor on, and a couple other AI messaging tools that you're like, okay, interesting. Like you're integrated in the marketplace with all these property management softwares, yet they launched their own. And I know dynamic pricing has seen this with property management softwares launching their own pricing tool and channel management connections rather than their own channel management partners. So like there's a bunch of duplicates, but for me, I've always looked at the PMS as a kind of a middleware. Like it should be your heart and I guess brain for when it comes to the calendar and communication, but it should not be the heart for everything else, like pricing and access control and marketing and whatever else. Ideally, yes, I would love a unified dashboard with all these, but I don't think that's how our tech ecosystem works. And so
but they're going to try, right?
We're going to try.
They're definitely going to try. And Guesty, some will definitely execute much better than others.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely for, my mind for this coming year is what are the things we can do that they can never replicate for different, what defensibility can it really build up? So I'm not going to share what those things are right now, but those are the things we should be excited to see come next year is what are those defensible products that we can offer that, either can't be or cannot be easily replicated by another provider or solution provider.
All right, I'm back. Sorry to interrupt. But you have to hear about our partners and friends at Hostfully. Not only are they an amazing property management software, they're an amazing team. I've been friends and partners with Hostfully for over 4 years now, and it's been an amazing 4 years. I can't complain because as I continue to grow my business with our property management company, they continue to update and grow their products and features within the Hostfully platform, and it just gets better over time. So with us, we have a unified inbox, we have amazing marketplace, not only for the rest of our tech stack to integrate, which is awesome because they work with so many people, but then the third piece is the distribution is built in. So you don't have to fully rely on a channel manager. You can actually rely on the amazing integrations that Hostfully has with Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Marriott, Homes and Villas, you name it. They have what you need in order to get your inventory, your properties to the right people. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm going to tell you this anyways. You're going to get a special deal with Hostfully with the link in the show notes. You'll just have to let them know if you love the product and then just tell them that we'll send you. So that way you can get that amazing Slick Talk deal. And of course, we're back to the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah. So offline, I'm going to ask you what those are. And then next year, I'm going to have you say what they actually came to fruition, and we'll see how many you got right. And I'll tell the listeners if you're lying or if you're not lying.
Okay.
Just kidding. No, it's super interesting though, because I think the tech landscape in general, it just, especially after seeing the, 23 different categories, right? Like it would be so overwhelming. Do you guys find that like StayFi customers are sharing the same kind of sentiment and feedback? Like, oh my gosh, like what do you guys recommend for pricing? What do you guys recommend for this? Like, have you heard about this company? Do you guys get a lot of that type of feedback or even, I guess, questions from customers that are wanting to grow, wanting to streamline, be more efficient, yet just don't know where to start because there's so many options?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at least what we have to provide is pretty uniquely differentiated, where we don't have a direct competitor that offers all of the things we do in one platform, which is definitely nice because obviously if you're going to look for a dynamic pricing solution, there's like real head-to-head comparisons. And obviously, I don't know the details of each product, but I'm sure there are obviously things that are unique to each one or that each one is better at, right? But, at least in that sense, like most people are adopting at least one and picking what it is. I'd say, people usually come to us because they have a pretty specific need, as in like they recognize that they need to build a resilient direct booking business. And they typically have heard from somebody else that we're the best way to do that. And so for them, it's more of a discussion of how are you going to fit into my tech stack and how do we get the most out of the tool and how does the sign-up process work, right? So we're typically not coming in and the only things that we typically would be replacing are like things that are not specific for vacation rentals. So we'll replace a MailChimp.
Gotcha.
So we're replacing like non-vertically specific software. We're not displacing vertically specific software within the space, which is also nice because we can take costs off the table because we provide, a same but cheaper version of MailChimp built for a vacation rental. So it actually makes a lot more sense than to use that type of tool. Yeah, and then typically they're not using something else because they signed up with us within at least vacation rental specific software. I'd say we don't typically give recommendations because everybody is our partner. So that's not really in our best interest either. I'd say we typically would just guide somebody to these are the 5 tools you should look at that do this. But most of our customers have the core pieces in place. Like they have a PMS. If they're using a pricing tool, they have a pricing tool. They may have an operations tool, and they might probably have some sort of access control, right? Mm-hmm. Those are kind of like the core pieces. And then we're something new and totally different that they're adding in.
I love it. Well, I want to kind of ask you maybe a final question here in the sense of building brand in our industry, right? Like there's marketing, but there's actually building a brand and having mind share of the guests outside of the 8 hours they're staying inside your property to sleep or to maybe have dinner and get ready for the next event or conference or whatever it may be. So what, maybe I guess a good question for you, like within the StayFi ecosystem, what have you guys determined as a brand versus like just a marketing tool, right? Like maybe not marketing tool, but like how do operators distinguish themselves from marketing and actually acting as a brand? Do you know what I'm saying there? Like, I'm trying to
Yeah,
articulate it.
I don't think there's anything wrong just being an operator, to be totally frank. So I'll
Yeah.
just say, like, you don't need to have a brand in the traditional sense that you think of, right? I'd say the driver of why, when we talk to guests about why they book direct, number one is still price by far.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I'm getting the same thing, but each side is saving money. I mean, that's the real driver and main piece of customer education that you have to drive home, especially if you're on the smaller side, is if you book again with us, it's cheaper. It's often easier to present that message actually as a human and not as a brand. So if you have 5 listings and on the OTAs are listed as yourself, like as the quote unquote host, driving that message from you personally is not a bad thing at all. And I actually think it can be advantageous that we're going from this kind of Airbnb or Vrbo, which is completely like inhuman, to like a human connection in terms of, I run this home and, this is better for everybody when you go direct. Obviously, brand building becomes more important as you scale, especially if you are a property manager and want to build a property management business, because the brand is valuable on both sides, right? Because this is the two-sided marketplace in that case. And there, what are you promising to guests that go above and beyond and is differentiated from OTAs, right? I think that's where you have to kind of key in there is, what is the generic Airbnb, or what does your guest perceive a generic Airbnb or a generic Vrbo to be? And how is my brand and operation different than that in terms of property quality, cleanliness, standardization of service, communication level,
Yeah.
free, perks for booking direct, whatever it is, right? It's kind of like, what are the set of characteristics that differentiate me from a quote unquote Airbnb? And that's where I would lean into from building a brand outside of OTAs.
Okay. I love that. And my actual final question will be around Airbnb specifically. What are your thoughts around them designing and building tools to make it easier for hosts to operate in the app or operators to stay in the app, around not only like, I guess like group messaging, but now they're creating like a host marketplace and all these other things. Do you see this as a potential threat to the tech ecosystem already existing within short-term rentals? Or do you think it's just like a kind of a media PR play? A lot of people like to, talk about the PR engine that is Airbnb, but I don't know, just want your overall thoughts on their changes as a platform more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge, significant percentage of Airbnb listings that are only listed on Airbnb, and I think it makes a total sense to build a set of services around those operators who are not sharing their inventory via a PMS manager or like from a channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we know precisely like what percentage that is. I think people have done studies on like what percentage of Airbnb inventory is unique or not.
Yeah.
So it makes a total sense, for a publicly traded company to basically say, how can we make sure that these operators stay completely within our platform and we own everything end to end so they can't leave us, right? And we know that Airbnb doesn't talk about vacation rental management companies as an important customer, right? They want to like ignore and pretend that they don't exist. And that's fine, right? That's kind of like their little white lie or whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. It's presenting a brand that doesn't really gel with how their business really operates. So I don't really perceive it as a threat. I don't think they're going to, what are they going to do? Tell everybody you can only list on Airbnb and you can't list on any other platform? And at that point, they would need to have 90+% market share and actually be like a monopoly, right? Mm-hmm. And hopefully then they would get some nice scrutiny from Alina Khan or somebody else, right? If they went down that path completely.
Yeah.
So, hopefully the FTC will protect us from total monopolization of the short-term rental industry. So one can only hope.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say, man, open up a whole new can of worms right at the end.
Yeah, right.
No, that's super good. Well, this episode's coming out after VRMA. So any final thoughts or messages for those who maybe were in attendance or that are listening? Yeah, I guess after the whole industry getting together, what's some final messages or pieces you'd love to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Verma is definitely I think one great thing coming out of Verma will probably be, unfortunately, we are about to have another hurricane hit a very high density set of markets for vacation rentals.
Yeah.
And I know for us, we have taken, a very proactive stance of, if you're impacted by this, and I know other partners have just done this as well, like, we definitely don't want to charge you, and we want to give you as much time as you need to hopefully put the pieces back together and rebuild your business. So I definitely think we're going to see like that, hopefully resilient coming together to support operators in areas that are impacted by natural disasters, because unfortunately many of our top destinations as an industry are in those types of destinations that see that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also will be interesting to see, lots of discussion about how Verma attendance is in decline. I'll be curious to see how first-time attendees react to the sessions and the panels, why they came to Verma for the first time, kind of how they heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always think they're doing the best job marketing themselves, so I'm just kind of curious to see like what's working and what's not working. And, definitely going to check out a ton of the new tools that are there. I looked at the vendor map and I'm like, I haven't heard of, tens of these companies.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of new interesting things popping up in the space. And I think Verma is always a great opportunity to go and check out new technology. I remember my first Verma and nobody knowing what the StayFi was, and people thought we were, internet service provider, and people were very confused.
Yeah.
So it's always a little intimidating. So definitely, be nice to the new people and be genuinely interested in what they have to offer. So I'm definitely going to go talk to all of those folks because I know exactly what that's like.
100%. No, very well said. I could not have the more of the same sentiment that you do. So Arthur, this has been such a fun episode. I know it's quick for a Slick Talk episode. Normally we're like 50, 60 minutes, but I think we packed a couple punches within the 30 minutes of the recording today. How do you feel about it?
Great, Will. It's always good chatting, and look forward to seeing you in real life shortly.
Yeah, we'll see you in about a week. Obviously, this is all going to be published afterwards, but super thankful for your time today. Thank you for joining us on the show. And for all the Slick Talkers, make sure you like and subscribe to all things StayFi. Arthur has amazing knowledge around the industry and just is a great resource. So make sure you follow and give them all the love. And so, yes, like always, we'll see you guys again next week.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.